Mr. Good. Mr. Good is very good. He always makes his bed. He always cleans his teeth. He always wipes his feet. He never slams doors. He never forgets birthdays. And he never tells lies. Mr. Good is very, very good. However, Mr. Good lives in a place called Badland, and a place where nobody is like Mr. Good. A place where people slam doors and they slam them in your face. In Badland, puddles are much deeper than they look. So much deeper. In Badland, a dog's bite is worse than his bark. In Badland, even trees are bad. This one's tripping him over. One day, it was wet and windy. Well, of course it was. The weather is always bad in Badland. Mr. Good was walking along minding his own business when the hat of the man in front blew off. Mr. Good leapt into the air and caught it for him. The man turned around and glared at Mr. Good. "What do you think you're doing?" he thundered. "Give me back my hat." Poor Mr. Good. This sort of thing always happened to him. You see, the very idea of doing a good deed in Badland was preposterous, unthinkable, mad. If Mr. Good offered to carry someone's shopping, he was accused of stealing. If he kindly held the door open for someone, he would be kicked in the shin. Not surprisingly, Mr. Good was not very happy. In fact, he was miserable. So he decided to go for a walk to think about things. He walked a very long time. He was so deep in thought that he did not notice how far he had gone. And he was so deep in thought, he accidentally walked slap bang into someone. I'm so sorry," stammered Mr. Good nervously. "That's quite all right," said the man, and carried on his merry way. "Quite all right," repeated Mr. Good to himself. "That's quite all right." In the whole of his life, no one had ever said, "That's quite all right" to Mr. Good. He's looking very confused. Then Mr. Good noticed the sun was shining, which was strange because the sun never shone in Badland. Further on, Mr. Good found a rubbish bin on its side. Without thinking, he tidied up all the rubbish. "Thank you," said a woman. Mr. Good stared at her. In his whole life, no one had ever said thank you to him. Could you tell me where I am?" he asked. "You're in good land," replied the woman. "Thank you," said Mr. Good. "My pleasure," said the woman. Mr. Good beamed. Look at that smile he's got. And I'm sure you have guessed by now that Mr. Good lives in Goodland, and Mr. Good is happy. Very, very happy, doing good deeds all day long. There he is, fixing a gate. The only thing Mr. Good still does not trust is a puddle. Once you've stepped in a Badland puddle, you never forget. The end. All right, sweetie, you have a good night's sleep tonight. Sweet dreams. Mummy and Daddy love you, and be good for Mummy.